Vulnerability is often perceived as a trait more commonly associated with women, but for men, it can be a deeply transformative act. The idea of men being vulnerable may seem counterintuitive, especially in a society that often promotes strength, stoicism, and emotional resilience as key markers of masculinity. However, beneath this facade lies a fundamental truth. Men long for connection and authenticity just as much as women do. When a man allows himself to be vulnerable, he is often revealing far more than surface-level emotions. He is opening the door to his deepest thoughts, fears, and insecurities, qualities that many men are taught to hide in order to preserve an image of strength and self-sufficiency. The act of vulnerability, though often feared, is a courageous step toward emotional intimacy and deeper connection. Men who allow themselves to be vulnerable do so because they trust the person they are with, trust that their emotions will be met with acceptance, empathy, and understanding rather than judgment or rejection. When a man feels safe enough to lower his defenses, he begins to share parts of himself that he's often kept hidden, revealing not only his fears and insecurities, but also his hopes, dreams, and desires. This kind of emotional openness isn't a sign of weakness, but rather of strength and maturity. Men often carry emotional barriers as a result of societal conditioning, which teaches them that emotional restraint and independence are virtues. From a young age, many men are taught that showing emotions such as fear, sadness, or insecurity is a sign of weakness, and they are often discouraged from expressing vulnerability. Instead, they are encouraged to project confidence, stoicism, and resilience, which can become the mask they wear in social settings and even in relationships. However, the need to present this idealized version of themselves can create internal struggles, leading to feelings of isolation and disconnection from their true selves. When a man begins to trust a woman enough to reveal his vulnerability, he's signaling that he feels safe and accepted by her. This trust often develops over time through shared experiences, communication, and the consistent demonstration of empathy and understanding. The right woman creates a space where he can feel emotionally secure enough to let go of these carefully constructed defenses and connect on a deeper level. Vulnerability for men is often not something that happens instantaneously. It requires a relationship that fosters emotional security, patience, and mutual respect. A man may take small steps toward openness, revealing his fears, doubts, or past regrets gradually, rather than all at once. This process is influenced by the woman's ability to listen without judgment, provide reassurance, and create a safe environment where he feels valued and accepted, flaws and all. As trust builds, he becomes more willing to expose his fears, insecurities, and uncertainties, knowing that these will be met with compassion rather than criticism. Number 1. The secrets men only share with high-value women. Men tend to guard their deepest thoughts, emotions, and vulnerabilities, often keeping them hidden from those they don't fully trust or feel deeply connected with. When a man begins to share certain secrets, personal stories, or intimate truths, it becomes evident that he views you as a high-value woman, someone whose presence holds a meaningful and significant role in his life. These aren't surface-level or casual conversations. Instead, they reflect the deeper, often hidden aspects of his identity, his fears, dreams, insecurities, past struggles, and hopes for the future. Men naturally protect these parts of themselves because they fear judgment, rejection, or the perception of weakness. They often believe that opening up too much could expose their vulnerabilities, making them feel exposed or less in control. However, when a man feels safe and secure enough to share these aspects, it signals that he trusts you deeply and sees you as someone who genuinely accepts and understands him for who he is, rather than the persona he presents to the world. High-value women tend to possess qualities such as emotional intelligence, empathy, strength, and authenticity, traits that create a safe and nurturing environment. These qualities inspire trust and create space where men feel secure enough to share their innermost thoughts and emotions without the fear of judgment or rejection. Men are far more likely to open up when they believe they won't be ridiculed or misunderstood, and when they feel that the person they're speaking to genuinely values and accepts them. They seek partners who foster emotional intimacy, not just those who accept their surface-level appearances. When a man begins to reveal his fears, doubts, or personal struggles, it shows that he sees you as someone who offers a safe space for him to express himself freely. This kind of sharing is not simply about telling you about his day or minor decisions. These are the deeper truths about his psyche, emotions, and aspirations. When a man starts to talk about past failures, emotional struggles, insecurities, or even his dreams and hopes for the future, it reveals that he trusts you with his emotional well-being. He's not just sharing facts, but inviting you into the core of his being, allowing you to understand his true self beyond what he may show the world. These are the aspects of his life that most people don't get to see, and when he shares them with you, it's a sign that he values the connection you have with him. The secrets men share with high-value women often revolve around topics they rarely discuss with others. These might include personal stories of failure, emotional struggles, doubts, and uncertainties about their future. Men often feel a responsibility to present themselves as strong, capable, and in control, but when they trust you enough to expose these vulnerable areas, it demonstrates a level of openness and vulnerability that is difficult to achieve. These moments of vulnerability are rare and often sacred, as they reveal the depth of his emotional investment in the relationship. Sharing these truths isn't simply about seeking sympathy or validation, but rather creating a deeper emotional bond, a connection that transcends superficial interactions and touches the very core of who he is as a person. In the context of high-value women, these moments of sharing are particularly significant because they showcase the level of emotional security and trust a man feels. A high-value woman exudes confidence, empathy, and self-assuredness, which creates an environment where men feel comfortable revealing their true, unfiltered selves. They don't feel the need to hide or censor their thoughts, emotions, and insecurities, knowing that they will be accepted and valued for who they truly are. When a man feels secure enough to open up about his deepest fears, doubts, and hopes, it signifies that he trusts you to hold those aspects of him with care and respect. This trust in your ability to understand his vulnerabilities without judgment is a clear indication that he sees you as someone who plays a crucial role in his life. Ultimately, when a man shares these intimate parts of himself, it underscores the deep respect, admiration, and emotional attachment he has for you. You are no longer just a part of his life, but someone who holds a deeply meaningful position in his emotional journey. These moments of openness are the foundation of a strong, trusting relationship, and they highlight the value he places on the connection he shares with you. High-value women have the capacity to create a space where men feel safe to reveal their true selves because they embody qualities that foster acceptance, understanding, and emotional depth. Men are more likely to feel secure enough to express their vulnerabilities when they are with someone who appreciates authenticity and provides a non-judgmental environment. When a man begins to share his deepest fears, doubts, and insecurities, it reflects a profound trust in you and the relationship, showing that he believes you will not only accept him, but support him in his journey toward growth and self-awareness. These conversations are far more than mere sharing. They are acts of emotional openness that reveal the layers of his personality, his fears, and his aspirations. It's not just about what he's saying, but about what he believes you'll do with that information, how you'll handle it, respect it, and nurture it. When a man opens up to you in this way, it demonstrates that he doesn't just want you as a part of his life. He wants you as someone integral to his personal development and emotional well-being. This trust and vulnerability are not easily earned. They are the product of a connection that feels safe, understood, and valued. In the end, when a man begins to share these intimate aspects of himself, it is a testament to the depth of his feelings and the trust he has placed in you. You become more than a casual or fleeting connection. You become someone who holds a pivotal role in his life, someone whose presence is deeply respected and cherished. Number 2. Why men only reveal their true selves to women. They admire men tend to reveal their true selves only to women they deeply admire for several reasons, rooted in both emotional and psychological dynamics. At a fundamental level, men often perceive vulnerability as a sign of weakness, especially in a world where strength and composure are often valued. In order to protect their ego and avoid the risk of judgment, rejection, or feeling inferior, many men tend to withhold their authentic thoughts, emotions, and vulnerabilities. However, when a man admires a woman, he perceives her in a different light, one of respect, trust, and worthiness. Admiration creates a unique emotional connection where he feels safe to expose parts of himself that he typically keeps hidden. The admiration stems from his recognition of her qualities, whether it's her confidence, wisdom, emotional depth, or the way she carries herself. When a man admires a woman, he often sees her as someone who possesses qualities he values deeply, qualities he may not always fully recognize in himself. In this dynamic, he believes that revealing his true self will not only make him more vulnerable, but also reveal aspects of himself that may seem unworthy or flawed. However, because of his admiration, he finds it difficult to suppress those feelings of inadequacy or fear. Instead, he begins to view this woman as someone who can accept and understand those parts of him without judgment, providing a space where he feels safe to be authentic. The admiration a man holds for a woman often includes respect for her emotional intelligence, strength, and capacity for empathy. These traits create an environment that encourages openness, as he recognizes that she is someone who can understand his complexities rather than judge or reject them. When a man feels admired by a woman, he is more likely to believe that she values his thoughts, feelings, and the struggles he faces. Men often keep their true selves hidden because they fear rejection, criticism, or the perception that they are weak or insufficient. But when admiration is present, those fears begin to dissolve. Instead of fearing judgment, they start to believe that their vulnerabilities will be met with compassion and acceptance. Admiration creates a sense of safety because the man feels that he is being seen, heard, and appreciated for who he really is, flaws and all. In addition, admiration often comes from a deep respect for a woman's qualities such as strength, confidence, or self-assuredness. These qualities signal to him that she is someone who can handle his imperfections without breaking down or diminishing him. When a man recognizes these qualities in a woman, he believes she holds the capacity to support him emotionally, to understand his struggles, and to embrace his authentic self without judgment. This trust in her ability to understand creates an environment where vulnerability feels less risky, and where he feels encouraged to let go of the masks he wears to protect his ego. Men also tend to admire women who demonstrate independence, wisdom, and self-assurance. These qualities often signal that the woman has a deep understanding of herself and life, which makes her a source of stability and confidence in the eyes of the man. He perceives her as someone who doesn't need validation in the same way others may seek it, which gives him the freedom to drop his own defensive mechanisms. When a man admires a woman who is self-sufficient and secure, he believes she won't criticize or belittle him for his insecurities or uncertainties. Instead, he sees her as someone who can listen, support, and appreciate him without trying to fix or change him. This admiration fosters a belief that she will accept him for who he truly is, not who he feels pressured to be. Moreover, admiration often comes from a sense of awe or respect for the woman's character. When a man admires a woman, he often idealizes her qualities, projecting his own desire for growth and authenticity onto her. This projection of idealization can create a sense of vulnerability, where he feels compelled to align himself with her values and qualities. In this state, he begins to see himself as someone who must rise to her level of integrity and authenticity, which in turn fuels his desire to reveal his true self to her. Admiring a woman who possesses emotional depth or resilience can make a man feel inspired to reflect those same qualities, thereby encouraging him to express the parts of himself that he may have otherwise suppressed. Furthermore, admiration can also stem from the recognition that the woman possesses qualities he may wish to develop in himself, such as confidence, emotional intelligence, or self-awareness. When a man sees these traits in a woman he admires, he is often inspired to emulate them, which drives a desire to be more authentic and true to himself. This admiration reinforces his belief that being vulnerable with her will not only enhance their connection, but will also help him grow and evolve into a better version of himself. Men tend to admire women who exude authenticity and confidence, which in turn fosters trust. When a man trusts a woman, he feels a deeper connection to her, and trust often opens the door to vulnerability. He believes that being his authentic self in front of her won't result in rejection, but rather acceptance. This trust stems from his admiration, as he sees her as someone who possesses qualities that demonstrate reliability, empathy, and respect. These qualities assure him that his truth will be handled with care and not dismissed or criticized. Trust and admiration combined create a dynamic where men are more likely to reveal the parts of themselves they typically hide. In addition to admiration, a man's openness often stems from his desire to build a deeper emotional connection with the woman he admires. Men are driven by the need for meaningful connections, and when they admire a woman, they often see her as someone who can provide the emotional depth they crave. This need for connection can create a longing to share their true selves, as they believe that being vulnerable fosters a stronger bond. In many cases, men recognize that true emotional intimacy can only be achieved when they open up and share their vulnerabilities. When admiration is present, they are often motivated by the desire to form a relationship that goes beyond superficial interactions. Men want to be seen and understood, and when they admire a woman, they believe that she can fulfill that desire by accepting and embracing their authenticity. Furthermore, admiration often brings about a sense of accountability. When a man admires a woman, he tends to hold himself to a higher standard of behavior, often seeking to live up to the qualities he respects in her. This drive to improve himself can push him to reveal his true self, as he feels a need to be honest and genuine in order to earn her respect. In this way, admiration isn't just about the woman's qualities. It's also about how those qualities inspire him to reflect, grow, and embrace who he really is. Ultimately, when men admire women, they tend to believe that revealing their true selves will not only foster deeper emotional intimacy, but also elevate their own sense of self-worth and authenticity. In the end, when a man trusts and admires a woman, he is far more likely to open up and show his true self because he feels that doing so will be met with acceptance, understanding, and respect. Number 3. The hidden signs. He trusts you with his deepest thoughts. When a man begins to trust you with his deepest thoughts, it often signifies a significant emotional connection and a sense of security he feels in your presence. Men, by nature, are wired to suppress vulnerability, especially in a world that often equates emotional openness with weakness. However, when he starts revealing parts of himself that he typically keeps hidden, such as fears, insecurities, past failures or dreams, he is signaling a deep level of trust. One of the key signs that he trusts you with his deepest thoughts is his willingness to share these conversations without fear of judgment. When a man feels secure, he begins to open up about aspects of his life that he wouldn't discuss with just anyone. This includes personal struggles, uncertainties, or even moments of self-doubt that he typically avoids discussing. The fear of being judged or misunderstood tends to prevent men from exposing these vulnerable parts, but when he starts doing so, it reflects that he sees you as someone who accepts him for who he is, flaws and all. Another hidden sign that he trusts you with his deepest thoughts is the way he responds to emotional conversations. When a man begins to seek your opinion or values your perspective on his life, decisions, or emotions, it indicates a level of respect and trust. Men typically hesitate to open up if they feel that their thoughts, feelings, or emotions will be dismissed or invalidated. However, if he consistently seeks your input, shares his feelings openly, or allows himself to be vulnerable in front of you, it demonstrates that he trusts you to understand and support him. Additionally, he may begin to talk about his future, his hopes, dreams, and aspirations in a way that reflects a deeper emotional connection with you. When a man trusts you with his deepest thoughts, he starts to reveal his long-term goals and the things that matter most to him. This includes his fears about the future, uncertainties, or even what he hopes to achieve. Men often fear that these conversations might be perceived as weakness, but when he begins sharing these things with you, it shows that he believes you will understand and support his journey rather than judge him for it. The emotional bond he feels with you creates a sense of safety, allowing him to open up about these more personal topics without hesitation. Furthermore, trust manifests in the way a man handles his personal stories and past experiences. If he shares details from his past, whether it's past relationships, mistakes, or regrets, it shows that he trusts you to handle those stories with care. Men often avoid discussing their past vulnerabilities because they worry about how they will be perceived. However, when a man opens up about these things, he's not only inviting you into his life, but giving you access to his deepest emotions. Another subtle but significant sign is how he reacts when you discuss your own vulnerabilities. When a man begins to listen attentively and show empathy toward your own struggles, doubts, or fears, it reflects that he feels secure enough to engage in a two-way conversation of openness and trust. Men are often hesitant to share their own thoughts if they sense that vulnerability isn't reciprocated. However, if he begins to mirror your openness and shows a willingness to be there for you, it signals that he sees you as someone who truly understands him and his needs. A man who trusts you with his deepest thoughts may also start to confide in you about his personal fears, anxieties, and insecurities. These are the things he usually keeps bottled up, afraid that exposing such emotions might make him seem weak. However, when he feels safe around you, he will begin to share those fears, whether it's concerns about failure, fear of rejection, or doubts about his own worth. This vulnerability reveals that he trusts you to hold those fears with care rather than using them against him. Another clear sign of trust is his willingness to accept your feedback on sensitive matters. When a man begins to listen to your advice, especially when it comes to matters of his emotions, relationships, or self-growth, it shows that he values your perspective. Men tend to guard their deepest thoughts, but when they begin to actively seek your input, it's a clear indication that they trust you enough to take your thoughts into consideration. Finally, when a man starts to introduce you to his inner circle, his close friends, family, or people he cares about, it is a strong sign that he trusts you with his deepest thoughts. Sharing his life with others in this way indicates that he views you as someone who is important and trustworthy, someone he wants others to see as a significant part of his life. In summary, the hidden signs that a man trusts you with his deepest thoughts go beyond the surface-level conversations. They reflect a deeper emotional bond, one rooted in security, respect, and mutual understanding. When a man starts to share his vulnerabilities, past experiences, fears, and dreams, it's a clear indication that he trusts you to accept him for who he is and values the connection you have. Number 4. How to know when you've earned a man's emotional trust. Earning a man's emotional trust isn't something that happens overnight. It's built gradually through consistent actions, empathy, and authenticity. One of the key ways to know when you've earned his emotional trust is through the depth of the conversations you're having. Men typically guard their emotions and tend to keep their vulnerabilities hidden, especially if they fear judgment or rejection. When a man begins to share his fears, insecurities, past mistakes, or personal struggles with you, it's a clear sign that he trusts you enough to be vulnerable. These aren't surface-level conversations about day-to-day events. Instead, they are more intimate and reveal his deeper thoughts, hopes, and fears. If he feels comfortable discussing these subjects with you, it means he sees you as someone who will listen without criticism or dismissal, and who can hold space for his emotional needs. Another strong indicator of emotional trust is how he responds to your own vulnerabilities. When a man shows empathy and patience toward your emotional experiences, whether they're doubts, insecurities, or past struggles, it suggests he values and respects your openness. Men are less likely to be emotionally transparent if they don't feel that they can reciprocate the same level of vulnerability. If he listens attentively, offers genuine support, and doesn't minimize your feelings, it reflects that he trusts you to understand his own emotions and reactions. Additionally, how he treats you during difficult or stressful situations is another key indicator. When a man trusts you emotionally, he won't shy away from leaning on you during challenging moments. He'll seek your comfort, advice, and support, rather than attempting to handle things on his own or suppressing his feelings. If he turns to you when he's feeling uncertain, overwhelmed, or vulnerable, it shows he values your presence and trusts you to provide the emotional support he needs. Trust is often demonstrated in small, everyday actions rather than grand gestures. For instance, if he starts to rely on you for emotional guidance or actively seeks your input on important life decisions, it shows he respects your perspective and trusts your judgment. Men tend to keep their emotions bottled up unless they believe the person they're sharing with is capable of understanding, accepting, and supporting them. If he turns to you for advice or feedback, especially on sensitive matters, it reflects that he sees you as someone whose opinions and insights matter to him. Another subtle yet important sign of emotional trust is his willingness to include you in his future plans. When a man begins to open up about his dreams, goals, or long-term aspirations, he's essentially inviting you into his life on a deeper level. He may not explicitly state his intentions, but if he talks about what he hopes to achieve, what matters to him, or what his ideal future looks like, It shows he views you as someone who belongs in those plans. Men typically guard their future ambitions, fearing that revealing such hopes and dreams might make them appear vulnerable or unsure. When they start sharing these aspects with you, it's a strong indication that they trust you with their emotional well-being and long-term goals. The trust that comes from emotional connection also involves consistency. A man who trusts you emotionally will show up reliably and consistently, both in his actions and his words. He won't just express fleeting moments of affection or openness. Instead, he'll be present in your life, demonstrating stability and reliability. This could mean being there when you need him, keeping his promises, and showing up with sincerity. Trust is built over time through these repeated actions that demonstrate his dependability and integrity. Another subtle sign of emotional trust is how he responds during conflict or disagreements. When a man trusts you, he'll engage in open and respectful conversations rather than retreating or becoming defensive. He'll be willing to listen to your point of view, even if it's different from his own, and will strive to find common ground rather than avoiding or dismissing the conflict. Men who trust emotionally are more likely to address issues head-on, knowing that they have someone who will listen, understand, and support them, even in moments of disagreement. Lastly, emotional trust is often reflected in how he introduces you to the important people in his life, his family, close friends, or even colleagues. When a man trusts you, he'll naturally want to bring you into his circle of relationships. This isn't always about superficial socializing, but more about sharing parts of his world with you. If he includes you in his life in these meaningful ways, it shows he sees you as someone who holds a place of significance in his life, further reinforcing his emotional trust in you. In conclusion, earning a man's emotional trust is a gradual process built through genuine actions, empathy, and consistent presence. The key signs of trust include his willingness to share vulnerabilities, seek your support during difficult moments, involve you in his future plans, and demonstrate reliability and openness in his interactions. When these elements come together, you'll know that you've earned his emotional trust and that he sees you as someone deeply valuable in his life. Number 5. The emotional barriers men break for high value. Men often construct emotional barriers as a form of self-protection, rooted in societal expectations, fear of rejection, and the belief that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. However, when they encounter a high-value woman, one who possesses qualities like confidence, emotional depth, and authenticity, they are more likely to break down these barriers. The emotional barriers men erect are typically built to safeguard their sense of identity and avoid situations where they might be perceived as weak or inadequate. These barriers often include fear of judgment, rejection, or the belief that being vulnerable could lead to feelings of inferiority or emotional pain. Men are conditioned to believe that they must maintain control, emotional strength, and independence to be perceived as valuable, especially in a world that often prioritizes self-sufficiency and resilience. However, when a high-value woman enters their life, someone who exudes confidence, self-assurance, and emotional stability, these barriers begin to weaken. High-value women tend to possess qualities that men admire deeply, such as emotional intelligence, integrity, and the ability to communicate authentically. When men encounter these qualities, they begin to see vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a strength, and are more likely to embrace it rather than resist it. One of the primary emotional barriers men break down when encountering a high-value woman is their fear of rejection. Men are often conditioned to avoid showing weakness because they fear being dismissed, misunderstood, or not meeting societal standards of what it means to be strong or masculine. However, high-value women, with their confidence and understanding, often create an environment where men feel safe expressing their vulnerabilities. These women tend to exhibit empathy, patience, and a non-judgmental attitude, which reassures men that their authentic selves will be accepted and respected. When men feel this level of safety, they are more likely to reveal their insecurities, fears, and personal struggles, breaking down the barriers of self-protection they've built over time. Another barrier men break down is their fear of emotional dependence or feeling less than in the eyes of others. Society often portrays men as needing to be self-reliant and independent, which reinforces the belief that showing dependence or needing emotional support is a sign of weakness. However, high-value women, by demonstrating emotional strength, self-sufficiency, and confidence, signal that they do not view vulnerability as a negative trait. Instead, they create a dynamic where emotional intimacy is not only accepted, but encouraged. When a man sees that a high-value woman does not view his emotional needs as a weakness, but rather as a shared experience of growth and connection, he begins to feel comfortable breaking down the barriers that tell him he must always be strong and self-sufficient. Emotional authenticity is another critical barrier men break down in the presence of high-value women. Men often fear being judged or ridiculed for expressing their true thoughts and feelings, particularly when those emotions do not fit into traditional masculine ideals of control and composure. However, high-value women tend to exude qualities such as empathy, self-assurance, and an ability to connect deeply with others. These women demonstrate that emotional authenticity is not a vulnerability to be feared, but rather an essential part of being human. When men interact with these women, they are often inspired to be more honest and open, breaking down the walls that keep their emotions bottled up. In addition, high-value women tend to have a strong sense of self-worth and self-respect. This confidence often influences the way men view their own worth and value. Men who encounter high-value women recognize that their self-worth isn't dependent on external validation or traditional ideals of masculinity. These women encourage men to explore their self-identity and accept themselves for who they truly are. As a result, men feel more empowered to break down the barriers that tell them they must conform to societal standards, instead embracing their authentic selves without fear of judgment or rejection. High-value women also often challenge the emotional barriers surrounding men's fear of failure. Men are often driven by the fear of falling short, making mistakes, or being seen as inadequate, particularly when it comes to personal or professional endeavors. However, high-value women tend to be supportive and encouraging, offering empathy and understanding rather than criticism. This dynamic allows men to embrace their setbacks and shortcomings, knowing that their vulnerability won't be met with condemnation, but rather with compassion. When men experience this level of emotional safety, they are more willing to confront their fears, break down the barriers that shield them from emotional pain, and step into a space of growth and authenticity. Furthermore, high-value women often embody emotional resilience and maturity, which further breaks down the emotional barriers men may have built. Men tend to seek out women who not only accept their vulnerabilities, but also demonstrate emotional stability and the ability to handle challenges with grace. When men witness this resilience in high-value women, they begin to trust that their emotional experiences will be met with understanding and strength. This trust allows them to feel secure in their own emotional journeys, breaking down the barriers that once told them they had to carry the weight of their emotions alone. In conclusion, high-value women have a profound ability to break down the emotional barriers that men have built to protect themselves from vulnerability, fear of rejection, and societal expectations of masculinity. By demonstrating confidence, empathy, authenticity, and resilience, these women create an environment where men feel safe to embrace their true selves. As men encounter these high-value women, they are often inspired to let go of the limiting beliefs that have kept them from expressing their deepest emotions, enabling them to form deeper connections and experience genuine intimacy. Number 6. 10 personal truths. Men share only with women. They see a future. When a man begins to share personal truths with a woman, especially ones they typically keep hidden, it's often a sign that he sees a future with her. Men are generally conditioned to suppress their vulnerabilities and insecurities, believing that revealing these aspects might make them appear weak or less desirable. However, when a man opens up about his deepest thoughts, fears, and hopes, it reflects a deep level of trust and emotional connection. These truths are typically ones that he wouldn't share with just anyone, only with someone he feels he can genuinely depend on and see as a significant part of his life. One personal truth that men often share with women they see a future with is their insecurities and fears about failure. Men are often driven by the need to succeed and achieve, fearing that any sign of failure will undermine their self-worth. However, when a man feels truly connected to a woman, he begins to share his anxieties about falling short, whether it's in his career, personal goals, or relationships. By opening up about these vulnerabilities, he trusts that the woman will support and understand his struggles rather than judge or dismiss them. Another truth men often reveal is their past mistakes and regrets. Men tend to guard their past experiences, fearing judgment or criticism. They may avoid discussing failures, regrets, or wrong decisions, believing these aspects could tarnish their image of confidence and control. However, when a man envisions a future with a woman, he feels secure enough to discuss these aspects of his life. Sharing his past mistakes signifies that he trusts the woman not only to understand his journey, but also to accept him despite his flaws. Men also tend to open up about their fears of rejection and abandonment when they see a future with a woman. The fear of being abandoned or rejected can be deeply rooted in a man's psyche, especially if past experiences have led to feelings of inadequacy. However, when he begins to trust a woman deeply, he starts to share these fears, revealing his need for emotional connection and reassurance. By doing so, he communicates that he values her presence and seeks emotional safety in their relationship. Another personal truth men reveal when they see a future with someone is their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. While men may be reluctant to discuss long-term goals or ideal visions of the future with just anyone, they often feel comfortable sharing these dreams with someone they believe will be a key part of that future. Whether it's personal ambitions, career goals, or visions of family life, the sharing of such aspirations reflects trust and a desire to involve the woman in his vision of a meaningful life. A significant truth that men often disclose when they see a future with a woman is their fear of vulnerability. Men are conditioned to suppress emotional openness, associating it with weakness. However, when a man trusts a woman and envisions a future with her, he begins to confront this fear. He starts sharing his emotions, including fears, doubts, and insecurities, knowing that she won't judge him, but rather offer support and understanding. This vulnerability is a key sign that he sees the woman as someone who can help him grow and evolve. Men may also share their financial concerns and uncertainties when they feel a future with a woman. Financial instability can be a source of anxiety, especially for men who feel pressure to provide or maintain a certain level of security. When a man begins discussing his financial challenges or worries with a woman, it reflects trust and a desire to be open about areas of his life that impact his well-being. This sharing signifies that he views the woman as someone who can stand by him, regardless of the uncertainties he faces. Another personal truth men reveal when they see a future with a woman is their struggles with self-doubt and confidence. Men, like anyone, face moments of uncertainty about their worth, capabilities and value. However, when a man sees a future with a woman, he starts sharing these doubts, trusting that she will provide encouragement and belief in his potential. By exposing these insecurities, he shows that he seeks validation and reassurance from someone he deeply trusts. Men may also open up about their long-term relationship desires and their fears of commitment. While many men fear being locked into something they can't escape, when they find someone they truly connect with, they begin to express their longing for a deep, meaningful connection. They reveal their fears of being unable to meet the expectations of a committed relationship, acknowledging their desire to build something lasting, but also their concerns about the journey ahead. A man might also share his personal values and principles when he envisions a future with a woman. Men often have core values that shape their lives, whether it's family, loyalty, integrity, or personal growth. When a man feels connected to someone, he begins to discuss these values, recognizing that she aligns with his beliefs and will be a significant part of his life moving forward. Lastly, men reveal their long-term relationship goals when they see a future with a woman. These goals often center around creating a life together, whether that involves building a family, traveling, or simply building a partnership of mutual support and love. By sharing these goals, he communicates his commitment to a deeper connection, signaling that the woman plays a pivotal role in his future. In conclusion, when men begin to share these personal truths, fears, dreams, insecurities, and long-term desires, they are offering a glimpse into their emotional landscape. These truths reflect not just vulnerability but trust, a belief that the woman they are sharing with will accept and support them despite their flaws and uncertainties. Number 7. What makes a man feel safe? Enough to be vulnerable. A man's ability to feel safe enough to be vulnerable depends on several key factors, including trust, emotional security, and the presence of a supportive environment. Men are often socialized to equate vulnerability with weakness, which makes it difficult for them to open up, especially in relationships. However, when a man encounters a partner who fosters trust and creates a safe emotional space, he is more likely to lower his defenses and show his true, authentic self. Trust is perhaps the most fundamental element that makes a man feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Without trust, a man is likely to remain guarded and hesitant, fearing that opening up could lead to judgment, rejection, or ridicule. When a woman consistently demonstrates that she is trustworthy through her actions, empathy, and understanding, he begins to feel secure in her presence. Trust is built over time through reliability, honesty, and emotional availability. When a man sees that he can depend on his partner to listen, support, and understand him without judgment, he is more inclined to share his vulnerabilities. Another crucial component is emotional security. A man needs to feel that his emotional needs will be met and that his partner isn't dismissive of his feelings or dismissing his concerns. Emotional security comes from a relationship dynamic that encourages open communication, where both partners feel comfortable expressing their fears, doubts, and insecurities without fear of judgment. When a man feels that he can speak his mind freely, knowing his partner won't belittle or invalidate his emotions, he begins to trust the relationship and feels safer in showing vulnerability. Authenticity also plays a significant role in making a man feel safe enough to be vulnerable. A high-value woman who exudes confidence, self-awareness, and emotional maturity sets the stage for vulnerability. When a man sees that his partner is comfortable with her own emotions and is secure in who she is, he feels more inclined to mirror that openness. Vulnerability often requires a sense of authenticity. Number 8. How men reveal their commitment through words and actions. Men often express their commitment through both their words and actions, though these expressions may not always be obvious or immediately apparent. Unlike women, who may be more inclined to openly discuss their feelings and intentions, men tend to demonstrate their commitment through consistent behaviors, gestures, and the effort they put into maintaining the relationship. The foundation of a man's commitment often starts with his words, but the true measure lies in his actions. When a man is committed, his language reflects not just his intentions, but his genuine efforts to follow through on those intentions. He may not always articulate his feelings in the same way as a woman might, but his words carry weight when they are consistent and aligned with his actions. For example, a man who repeatedly communicates his care, respect, and desire for a future together is likely showing signs of commitment. However, it's not just what he says, but how he acts, that truly conveys his level of dedication. Actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes to matters of commitment. A man who is committed will demonstrate his loyalty through consistent behaviors, supporting his partner, being present during both good and challenging times, and prioritizing the relationship. This could involve small yet meaningful acts, like remembering important dates, making an effort to spend quality time together, and showing reliability in his actions. Commitment isn't about grandiose gestures, but rather about the cumulative effect of consistent actions. For instance, a man who takes time out of his busy schedule to check in, listen, and show care reinforces his dedication through his presence and effort. Another crucial way men express commitment is through their willingness to make sacrifices. Men who are truly committed to a relationship will prioritize their partner's needs and well-being, sometimes foregoing personal desires or conveniences. Whether it's rearranging their schedules, making compromises, or putting their partner's interests before their own, these actions reflect a level of dedication that goes beyond surface-level intention. A man who is committed doesn't hesitate to invest his time, energy, and resources in the relationship, recognizing that these sacrifices are part of the journey toward building something meaningful. Additionally, men often demonstrate their commitment through their communication about the future. While women might seek explicit reassurances, men often show commitment by including their partner in future plans, whether that's discussing long-term goals, planning for shared life experiences, or talking about shared values and ambitions. A man who expresses interest in growing alongside his partner, whether that's through conversations about moving in together, building a family, or pursuing shared dreams, shows that his commitment extends beyond the present moment. These discussions, even if subtle, indicate that he sees the relationship as a meaningful part of his future. Furthermore, men reveal their commitment through their ability to remain emotionally present, especially during difficult times. Unlike fleeting emotional displays, a committed man will show resilience and stability, staying engaged even when circumstances become challenging. Emotional availability and support during moments of adversity, whether it's through listening, providing reassurance, or offering comfort, are clear indicators of a man's commitment. A man who pulls away or becomes emotionally distant when faced with hardships is less likely to demonstrate long-term dedication, as commitment requires perseverance and the willingness to work through obstacles. In addition to emotional presence, men express commitment by staying accountable for their actions and responsibilities within the relationship. A man who takes ownership of his mistakes, communicates openly about areas where he can improve, and holds himself accountable, shows signs of maturity and dedication. Commitment isn't about perfection, but rather about a willingness to grow, learn, and be accountable for the relationship's success. Men who are committed take responsibility for their contributions, actively working to strengthen the bond rather than placing blame or shirking responsibility. Another important way men demonstrate commitment is through their actions regarding their partner's well-being. A committed man will prioritize his partner's happiness and health, often going out of his way to ensure they feel valued and supported. This could involve offering encouragement, seeking to understand their needs, and creating a safe environment where they feel appreciated. When a man invests in his partner's emotional and physical well-being, whether it's through acts of kindness, expressions of love, or encouraging independence and growth, it's a sign of his deep commitment. Lastly, men often reveal their commitment by consistently showing respect and admiration for their partner. Respect and admiration are key components of long-term dedication. A man who honors his partner's individuality, supports her dreams, and celebrates her strengths creates a relationship built on trust and admiration. When a man values his partner and demonstrates this through respect, his commitment becomes more tangible. Actions such as praise, encouragement, and prioritizing the emotional and physical needs of his partner reflect his intention to nurture and sustain the relationship. In conclusion, men express their commitment not just through their words, but primarily through their actions. Whether it's making sacrifices, demonstrating emotional presence, maintaining accountability, or prioritizing their partner's well-being, these consistent behaviors serve as powerful indicators of commitment. A man who is genuinely committed invests time, energy, and effort into the relationship, reinforcing his dedication through actions that align with his values and intentions. Number 9. What men hide from most, but share with the right woman. There are certain aspects of themselves that men often keep hidden, believing that exposing these parts could make them appear weak, vulnerable, or less desirable. However, when they encounter the right woman, one who creates a safe and trusting environment, they are more likely to open up and share these hidden truths. Men are socialized to suppress their emotions, particularly those that reflect vulnerability, such as fears, insecurities, and past failures. This suppression stems from the belief that expressing these emotions could undermine their sense of strength or masculinity. However, beneath this mask of emotional restraint lies a deep desire for connection and understanding. When a man trusts the right woman, he begins to reveal the parts of himself he's kept hidden from most others. One of the key things men often hide but are willing to share with the right woman is their insecurities and self-doubt. Men are conditioned to present themselves as confident, capable, and in control, even when they may not feel this way internally. Fear of failure, rejection, or inadequacy can weigh heavily on a man's mind, yet these fears are rarely expressed openly. When a man finds a woman who understands and accepts these insecurities without judgment, he feels safe enough to discuss his fears. Whether it's doubts about his career, his abilities, or his worthiness in the relationship, he begins to trust that the woman will support him rather than criticize or dismiss his vulnerabilities. Another truth that men often hide is their fear of emotional connection and intimacy. Many men are taught to believe that emotional openness is a form of weakness, and they might avoid deep emotional bonds out of fear of being vulnerable or dependent. However, when a man is with someone who creates emotional security, he feels comfortable enough to let down his guard and explore deeper levels of intimacy. The right woman, one who offers empathy, understanding, and patience, allows him to connect on a level that might have previously been foreign or uncomfortable. This openness not only brings a sense of relief, but fosters emotional intimacy that strengthens the relationship. Men also tend to hide their struggles with self-worth and validation. Society often pressures men to seek external validation, whether through success, wealth, or external accomplishments. However, these measures of validation are fleeting, and many men find themselves grappling with feelings of inadequacy despite outward appearances of confidence. When a man trusts a woman who appreciates him for who he is, without the need for external validation, he begins to share his inner struggles with self-worth. He opens up about his fears of not being enough, whether in his career, relationships, or personal life, knowing that the woman he's with won't dismiss his doubts, but instead offer encouragement and acceptance. Past regrets and mistakes are another hidden aspect that men often keep to themselves. Men may carry the weight of unresolved guilt or shame from past decisions, whether it's mistakes in their personal life, career, assistant. These experiences, if left unaddressed, can create a barrier to emotional growth and connection. When a man trusts a woman enough to share these regrets, he begins to process and heal from them. A woman who listens without judgment, offers understanding, and encourages reflection allows him to release the burden of these past mistakes. This sharing can be a powerful step toward self-acceptance and emotional growth. Furthermore, men often hide their emotional vulnerabilities, believing that showing them makes them appear weak. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, but in reality, it is a sign of strength. When a man finds a woman who accepts and embraces his emotional side, he feels safe enough to express these hidden aspects. Whether it's fear, sadness, anxiety, or moments of doubt, he begins to share his deeper emotional landscape, trusting that the woman will provide comfort, empathy, and understanding. This openness to vulnerability strengthens the connection between partners and allows both to grow emotionally. Men may also hide their fears of rejection, abandonment, or being misunderstood. These fears can stem from past experiences of emotional neglect or trauma, which often lead to the belief that being emotionally available could result in more pain. However, when a man feels secure in his relationship, he starts to reveal these fears. A woman who demonstrates patience, empathy, and unconditional support allows him to explore his deepest concerns without the fear of rejection. In her presence, he finds comfort in knowing that his fears are acknowledged and respected, leading to a deeper level of emotional intimacy and trust. Another hidden truth that men often share with the right woman is their dreams, hopes, and long-term goals. While men may appear to be focused on practical, day-to-day concerns, they often carry aspirations and dreams that are deeply personal. These dreams may not always be articulated, as men often fear vulnerability or the possibility of failure. However, when they feel connected to a woman who offers encouragement and believes in their potential, they are more willing to share their hopes and visions for the future. Whether it's dreams about career success, personal growth, or family life, the right woman creates a space where he can open up without hesitation or fear of judgment. Lastly, men tend to hide their fears of commitment or the responsibilities that come with it. Commitment can feel daunting, especially when a man feels uncertain about his ability to meet expectations or fears being entrapped by the demands of a relationship. However, when a woman shows patience, reassurance, and understanding, he begins to share his concerns about commitment. By doing so, he communicates his desire for a deeper, meaningful connection while acknowledging the challenges it may bring. In conclusion, while men may conceal various aspects of themselves due to societal expectations and fears, the right woman creates a space where they feel safe enough to reveal their hidden truths. Whether it's their insecurities, fears, self-doubt, or dreams, men are more likely to open up when they trust that their vulnerability will be met with empathy, acceptance, and understanding. Number 10. When he lets you in. The psychology behind male vulnerability. When a man truly lets you in, it's not merely about physical closeness or surface-level interactions, it's about emotional vulnerability. This act of letting someone in is deeply rooted in his psychology and often stems from a combination of trust, emotional security, and a belief that the relationship can provide a safe space for openness. Men, like anyone, are socialized with the expectation that displaying vulnerability is a sign of weakness. From an early age, they may have internalized messages that promote Stoicism, emotional restraint and independence, which can create barriers to expressing their true selves. As a result, many men grow up believing that they must appear strong, self-sufficient, and in control at all times. However, beneath this facade lies a deep desire for connection and authenticity. When a man allows himself to be vulnerable with someone, it signifies that he has found a person who meets specific psychological needs that he may not have fully realized before. The foundation of male vulnerability often begins with trust. Trust is the cornerstone upon which vulnerability is built. A man needs to feel secure in the relationship, knowing that his partner is someone who won't judge, criticize, or exploit his emotional openness. When a woman consistently demonstrates reliability, empathy, and understanding, he begins to feel safe enough to share his fears, insecurities, and deeper thoughts. Without trust, the walls he has built around his emotions remain intact, and he continues to withhold his vulnerabilities. Emotional security also plays a crucial role in his willingness to be vulnerable. Men are naturally drawn to partners who create a sense of emotional stability and reassurance. If a man feels that his emotional needs are met, he's more likely to let his guard down and express his true self. A woman who offers understanding and patience, who listens without judgment, and who makes it clear that she values his emotions, helps dismantle the internal barriers he may have built. Emotional security allows him to feel comfortable enough to explore his fears, doubts, and insecurities, knowing that these won't be dismissed or rejected. Commitment is another key factor that contributes to male vulnerability. For many men, vulnerability is closely tied to their perception of long-term connection and stability. When a man begins to see the relationship as something meaningful, one that holds potential for growth and shared future, he becomes more open to sharing his innermost thoughts. Commitment implies not just emotional attachment, but also a willingness to invest time, effort, and emotional energy into the relationship. The more secure a man feels in his connection, the more he's likely to reveal aspects of himself that he may have previously hidden. Vulnerability often requires a sense of authenticity, and a man who trusts his partner will be more likely to embrace his true self. Authenticity encourages vulnerability, as it implies that he doesn't need to project an idealized version of himself to be accepted. A man who feels accepted for who he is, flaws and all, is more inclined to let down his defenses and show his true emotions. When a man sees that his partner is comfortable with her own emotions and authenticity, he begins to mirror this behavior, trusting that his vulnerability will be met with compassion rather than criticism. Another key psychological driver of male vulnerability is the fear of rejection. Men often guard their emotions because they fear being dismissed, misunderstood, or judged. The belief that emotional openness could lead to rejection or shame prevents them from being vulnerable. However, when a woman demonstrates that she accepts and values his feelings, a man feels safe enough to express his vulnerabilities without the fear of rejection. The right partner creates an environment where vulnerability is not only accepted but encouraged, which helps dissolve these fears. Additionally, men may hide their vulnerabilities due to the societal expectation of being perceived as strong and independent. From a young age, men are often taught that showing emotion, especially in relationships, can be seen as a weakness. However, when a man finds someone who respects his emotional depth and supports his personal growth, he begins to understand that vulnerability is not synonymous with weakness, but rather a sign of strength and maturity. The woman who fosters an atmosphere of trust and emotional security shows him that being vulnerable is a natural part of human connection and not something to be feared. The psychological journey of vulnerability often involves a sense of patience and time. Men need time to process their emotions and gradually build trust with their partners. Pushing or pressuring a man to be vulnerable before he's ready can lead to resistance or withdrawal. Instead, creating a space of patience, empathy, and understanding allows him to navigate his emotional landscape at his own pace. When he feels that he is supported and not rushed, he becomes more willing to open up in a way that feels safe and authentic. In conclusion, when a man lets you in, it's a powerful sign of the psychological shifts taking place within him. Trust, emotional security, commitment, authenticity, and the absence of fear of rejection all play critical roles in his willingness to be vulnerable. The right woman creates an environment where these factors can flourish, allowing him to reveal his true self, embracing vulnerability as a pathway to deeper connection and intimacy.